I have a pretty good idea, I think, of where the members on my side of the aisle would fall on this proposal. So I'm just going to ask directly now, and then we're going to end. Are there any members of the GOP on this working group that find enough merit in the concept of a safe storage bill that criminalizes failure to safely store firearms, that they'd be willing to work with Senator Gustafson to come up with something that could get GOP support and pass the legislature?
Chair,
Senator Draymond.
you know, it didn't pass before because it didn't have bipartisan support. You guys have the majority in the Senate. So if you wanted to pass this before, you could have.
Senator Draymond, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's not the question I'm asking.
But
I'm asking if there's anyone on your side of the aisle that's willing to work toward passing a conceptual
I'll
safe
speak
storage
for
bill.
myself. I
If
can't
you're
speak
not,
for
then
everybody
don't say
else.
yes.
I would not support the bill as drafted.
That's not my question, but I guess.
Well, I
you're
told you
entitled
what
to
I
your
would
position.
support, Senator Latz, but
Education.
yeah, and you phrased the question to admit that part. So that is what I'm passionate about. If I want to save people's lives, I think education will do more good than another bill
Senator Mohammed,
to do the same thing we already have on statute, Senator Latz, in the examples given. So we could pass more laws, but it's really not going to save people. We need to educate people. We need to arrest the people out shooting up the streets of Minneapolis. We need to charge them. We need to prosecute them. We need minimum sentences.
Senator Mohammed.
Thank you, Senator Draham. And I think you're somebody who often works with members. You've certainly worked with me, even if at the end you didn't agree to bills. And I think even if you disagree with the way the bill currently is drafted, members on this side of the aisle are asking you, what would you need to get to, not even a yes, do you want to work on the idea of the policy? And what we're hearing is no after no after no. Members on this body are committed to working on that.
Mr. Chair. I'm ready to move on to the next item. It's pretty clear that unless you're going to say yes, unless you're willing to say that yes, I can get to someplace on the concept of criminalizing failure to keep firearms safely and securely stored, then there is no GOP member that is willing to do that. And we'll move on to the next bill on the agenda, and we'll see if we can reach any consensus on that. I'm not going to spend another half an hour debating the language in the safe storage bill, or that will end up being the message, that the GOP is unwilling even to participate in these conversations. So I don't want that to be the message. I want this to be a good conversation aiming toward consensus. Simple question is there objection to this, or anyone willing to work on trying to find a safe storage bill with this basic concept? If no, that's fine. I think that's just the way it is. Senator Heitzman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that your characterization of the GOP is unfair. You have had Senator Draheim suggest education, and you say, oh, the answer is no. You're saying absolutely no. You're labeling us as not being pro-safe storage. All of us agree safe storage is a good idea, right? We have a different idea of how to get there. But to say that we're absolute no when Senator Draheim said, let's talk about educating the public about it, that's not fair.
So thank you for that, Senator Heitzman. And I've been asking for proposals from the GOP at least since September 9th, when I personally spoke with Senator Johnson, notified him we were putting this working group together. I wanted bipartisan input and participation and soliciting of proposals. And the proposal before us is not an education proposal. I'm trying to get a sense of whether there's support for the proposal before us. If you don't support it, then that's fine. If you support something else like education, that's fine. Make a proposal to put together a statewide education plan for safe storage practices. That's fine, but that proposal hasn't been brought to us either. So right now, I'm going to do the equivalent of calling the question on proposal number letter A on our agenda, the safe storage bill. Is there anyone on the GOP side that is comfortable with the concept contained in this bill and be willing to work with Senator Gustafson to try to advance the concept, whatever the language might be worked out? All right. I've repeated the question 3 or 4 times already. Oh, my God. Okay, you want to take a vote on it? Is that what you'd prefer? We can take a vote. I was trying to avoid going down that road. I don't mind asking for a voice vote. Do you support safe storage or not? Do you want to go down that road? We can. I'm trying to ask it in a more nuanced way to leave open more possibility for bipartisan cooperation here without forcing people to be on the record, if you will. But I'm not getting a lot of cooperation in my judgment to try to address this. So I'm just going to declare the chair's conclusion that there is no bipartisan agreement toward advancing the safe storage bill in concept. And we're going to move on to the binary trigger ban. I believe this is also Senator Gustafson's proposal. Could you please give us 30 seconds, Senator Gustafson, on what the binary trigger ban proposal is?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the bill reinstates the binary trigger ban. Under current law, firearms cannot include a trigger activator. A trigger activator can be a device attached to a firearm that allows the rate of fire to increase to that of a machine gun, or a device that allows semi-automatic firearm to shoot more than one shot, either with a single pull of a trigger or by harnessing the energy of a firearm to continue firing without additional physical manipulation of the trigger. This is the binary trigger ban that was brought to us in result after law enforcement in Burnsville. 2 police officers were tragically murdered and a first responder. This had the support of both law enforcement and as a public safety common sense gun bill. This is so it is essentially something that can increase the amount of shots that you can fire.
Senator Gustafson, at the hearing on Monday, there was an amendment or language that was proposed regarding effective date. Would you be willing to take that off the table for the moment? So the question really is going to be about the policy proposal of having a binary trigger ban?
Mr. Chair, yes, absolutely.
That is what is before us right now. Is there any discussion about the proposed binary trigger ban? Are there any objections to the proposed binary trigger ban?
Mr. Chair,
Senator Howe.
so the folks that have a binary trigger on their gun, how would that look? So what happens afterwards? If they have one, what do they do? I mean, do they replace the trigger mechanism? Is there a cost to that to the state for making it now illegal? How does this work?
Senator Gustafson.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Howe. They would be illegal to sell in the state of Minnesota. If you have one, you're not allowed to possess it.
Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and a question for Senator Gustafson. So if someone has it, it's legal now, and if someone has it and they're no longer permitted to possess it, if this proposal were to become law, what does the process look like to depossess them of their legally obtained firearm?
Senator Gustafson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Lucero. I admit I missed just the last tail end of your question, but you can't have it. So it's illegal to sell. If you have one, you cannot have it. You'll have to turn it in. Does that answer your question? Okay, then maybe you can repeat it for me because I missed the last part of your question.
Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Gustafson. The question is to turn it in, is that firearm that was legally obtained that they're now required to turn in, I presume turn in means give to the government, are they going to be compensated in any way for the firearm that they're handing over to the government?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Lucero. Yes, sorry, very different question. No, as it stands right now, no.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, that is clearly a violation of the Constitution. Clear violation. That's a taking. And you can't take private property from law-abiding citizens without compensating them. This is a hard no. It's a direct violation of the Constitution.
Senator Lucero, if there were a compensation plan passed with this, a buyback of all firearms that had a binary trigger legal under current law, would you support the proposal then?
I won't support anything unless I see it in writing before me.
All right, well then, Senator Lucero, I don't know why you're here, because the whole point of this working group was to not look at specific language, but rather to talk about concepts and proposals, ideas to try to move forward. If there were a legislative session and you were asked to put up a green vote or a red vote, then you can look at the language and decide if you support it. But I just addressed your objection to the binary trigger ban, the takings clause of the Constitution, by saying, okay, let's get rid of that taking and pay for it if they are turning in what becomes an illegal piece of property. If your objection is to the concept, then just say so. This is not complicated.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am here to have a serious conversation about safe schools, safe neighborhoods, and those perpetrators of evil who are using instruments, multifaceted instruments, to harm others. I do not think it's a productive conversation that you, Mr. Chair, and others are trying to characterize us. You're putting a very narrow box, and you're saying yay or nay. That's not a fruitful conversation. Last week, I don't know what conversations were had with who, but we were given approximately 36 hours to submit proposals by a 10 a.m. deadline. Then, members of your staff, after Monday and before today, said no more conversations will take place beyond what was discussed Monday, in direct contradiction from the conflicting messages that we're getting. So this seems to be rushed. It seems to be mischaracterization. It doesn't seem like it's a healthy, serious conversation. Minnesotans want to have real solutions to protect children in schools, to protect violence that's occurring in neighborhoods and communities against these drug dealers, against these gang bangers, and continuing to focus on law-abiding citizens and not compensating them for a taking and many other very large problems with these proposals is just not serious in addressing what's happening in our communities and schools to protect our children. So that's why I'm here, Mr. Chair.
Senator Lucero, this conversation's about 3 or 4 decades too late. You had a lot of time to come up with proposals. And I can tell you, after the Annunciation shooting, it took me 15 minutes to put together a 6 or 7 point broad-based proposal that I put out in a press statement as to how I thought we ought to address reducing gun violence in this state. It takes one Google search to come up with 1,000 different ways in which we could take steps to do this, some of which you might agree with, some of which you would not. 36 hours is more than enough time to put pen to paper or to type into the laptop and come up with a few proposals to put before this committee. So I'm sorry, that excuse is no longer valid as far as I'm concerned. And the yay or nay was to an incredibly broad-based question. Do you or don't you support the concept? If you're going to sit here and say you're not going to support anything unless you see every period and semicolon in Word on paper and see if you like it, then you shouldn't be on this working group, because the idea was to look at concepts, ideas, policies to either move forward with and try to come up with language that can get votes or not. All right? If your presence here is simply to say no, 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 then that's your right. You were appointed by your caucus to be here, and that's your right. I'm not asking the questions that way. I'm going to ask if anyone else, or let me just rephrase it again. Is there anyone here who objects, or I should say, are there any members of the GOP who would support the concept of banning binary triggers in the state of Minnesota in a manner that would be constitutionally done? Okay. No members of the GOP support binary trigger ban. Let's move on to item C.